Well, hi, I'm Paul Stewart. I'm one of the volunteers here at the Stephen and Harriett Meyers Residence Historic Site, which is a documented site in connection with the Underground Railroad. It's on the National Register of Historic Places, and it's a member of the National Network to Freedom of the National Park Service, which is the national network that celebrates the story of the Underground Railroad. So Stephen and Harriett lived here in 1856, 1857. The house was built by John Johnson, who was an African-American boat captain. Stephen and their children lived here, and when they lived here, they did what they did at nearly every other address that they lived at after 1831, which was to help those who were coming through the community, who were fleeing from enslavement and who needed a place to rest, who needed food, clothing, shelter, possibly legal help, possibly medical help. And so the Meyers would either have them stay here or arrange for a place for them to stay at somebody's home nearby and help those people to move on to the next Underground Railroad station. So Stephen Meyers was a professed Christian, and his faith was very important to him, and that led him to be involved in anti-slavery work as well as temperance work, which was the concern of that day about drugs and its disruption that it would have for families and individuals. I think his appeal was very much to those who were considered the Friends of Freedom. This was a term that was used quite often in flyers or materials that they wrote. I do think that there was a strong sense of a movement consciousness in terms of relating to other people who were also involved. And of course, many people were very concerned about the moral and character uplift of the Black community as the community moved away from enslavement. And so New York, having been a slave state until 1827, the period in the 1830s and 1840s and 50s was a period where people were very concerned about personal development in terms of education and standing and character. And so these are all values that were church-based values. There's a connection between the past and the present. And I think a lot of people tend to want to make this history past. But if you look at what people were doing in terms of food, clothing, shelter, people like Stephen Meyers were also working on economic development and voting rights and education. These are the same concerns that we are still dealing with now. There are ways in which those things were never completely addressed in the past, and we still struggle with them today. And so we can be inspired by the work that the people from this pre-Civil War period did. We should take more time to look at what they did, because I think a lot of times we gloss over it and brush over it. And so you can see that, for instance, nowadays people are doing things like writing about Harriet Tubman's friends, recognizing that she didn't go to all these communities and do all this stuff by herself. She did it with a community of people, and people like Stephen Meyers and all the others who were here in Albany who were involved.